Hello, this is Demon Phoenix with part 6 of my Deathmatch New Game Plus walkthrough. So as you saw in the last episode, we were experimenting with a few other skills. We got a few different things. And as I said, Dandelion and Priscilla have gone back to Novigrad, and we finished most of the Novigrad parts of the story. So after you've done that, the natural progression is to go to Skellige. But there is an option that we can do with the build, and what that is if we wanted, we can go to Toussaint instead. So I'm just going to cover all of the options for what you could do at this part of the game. Because Toussaint gives you a few extra options, and it's good if you want a little extra bit of a challenge if you're finding the game a bit too easy with this or anything like that. But the Toussaint parts of it are not compulsory by any means. Now this is the very first part of the DLC, where we are doing the Envoys and Wine Boys mission, and we will come back to this a little bit later. But for now, I'm just going to cover what we do with the Skellige part of the story normally. Now, if you have been following the walkthrough, I recommended that we go to Skellige pretty much as soon as we went to Velen very early on, to collect the places of power and get as many ability points as possible, because that's very good for setting up the build. Now, with us having done that, I would have left the story missions, unless you are particularly Gwent fanatic. You could have done some of these to unlock the people that you can play in the Skellige style Gwent quest if you want to use the monster deck, which I actually did on the first New Game Plus playthrough before I had to restart it to get the rest of this footage. But assuming that you've just got the actual quest to do and the main storylines, there's nothing particularly difficult with this build for me to be able to recommend on having to do a certain thing. You fight an elemental here, and as part of getting into Ermien's secret laboratory, you also have to fight a few bears and wolves and things like that. But even though they show us having a sort of a red skull with a question mark as if they're very, very high level, all of them went down for one hit with me using Euphoria, so that was not a problem at all. And then you've got this bit here where you've got to fight with the elemental, but again, it's pretty standard, so as long as you've got the Unvic trousers, then it's a pretty normal sort of fight. And also Yennefer will stun it eventually as well, and you can see it goes down super quickly there, and it just pretty much gets me a charge of Arendite. Now you also, despite doing some of the things out of order, I was just about in line, in level, for me to be able to do the Possession and Lord of Unvic quests. Now you see there with some of the extra points that I've got, because I'm a bit higher level now, so jumping back and forth a bit in the video, but for the actual progression of the quests, I'm level 83 here, so that is 22 levels into my New Game Plus, right at the edge of where I can do Lord of Unvic. And what you might have seen there is that I had the fast metabolism skill. Now this is using the Ard Suite version of the build, and that has 4 decoctions because I have Ancient Lesson decoction as the 4th one, and then I have 300 toxicity points, so that gives me 4 of the normal decoctions, which are Arakas decoction, Ekimara decoction, and Warthog decoction as always, and the Ancient Lesson decoction for boosting your stamina with each use of Ard Sweep. And then that leaves you enough points to use the 20-point potions, but not enough points to use Thunderbolt, sadly. So Thunderbolt, Blizzard, and then the 25-point potions you'll not be able to use. But you can see there that I was using fast metabolism, and what fast metabolism does is the toxicity from your decoction toxicity just stays in place as long as the decoctions are there, so you always have the 280 toxicity boost in Euphoria by a permanent 210%. But then you can use the potions on top of it, and fast metabolism makes the potion toxicity go down extremely quickly. So you could use Tawny Owl, and then a few seconds later you can use Superior Maribor, so it's like having the best of both worlds, except you can't use Thunderbolt. So that's something to consider there with the extra points when you get higher level. Now you see there I've switched to the Legendary Ursine Steel Sword and the Legendary Ursine Armour, because I've reached what would be level 20 in my New Game Plus playthrough. Now the resistances for the Legendary Ursine are only 1 or 2% different or lower than the Grandmaster Ursine gear, so we're going to finally switch away from that. 1, because it looks cool, and 2, because it's a lot lighter, and we'll eventually need that to be able to make the enhanced and finally build up through superior mastercrafted and all of that. And the Legendary Ursine Steel Sword is more powerful. Now there are a couple of different options that you can use those extra points for, because you need to be about level 75 and have all the places of power to have the build completed. You see there another option instead of fast metabolism is side effects. Now side effects is a weird little ability at the bottom of the brewing tree on the Alchemy skills tree, and what it is when you use a potion, it will randomly use another potion. There's a 100% chance of that if you have 5 points in it. So you can use a potion. It has a little bit of a cooldown on it. So for example, if you were to use Golden Oriole there, nothing's happened because I've very recently used another potion. But then when the effect dies off, then you use a potion there. I use Swallow and it instantly uses Killer Whale. Now Killer Whale it's not much cop for, but for things like Thunderbolt and Superior Full Moon, you can use 4 decoctions and then use that ability side effects to use some of the more powerful potions when you use, say, Toussaint, and then it can use Thunderbolt from the side effects, which is really cool. This little bit here, just skipped ahead, I do apologise, but you also want to go to the armourer at the Kertrold castle when you've done the first few missions in Skellige, and you should be high enough level to buy the New Game Plus version of the Undvik trousers. So you can buy that, and you can, if you've unlocked the rune right, then you can add the slots to that and have a slightly better higher level version of the Undvik trousers. So it's just a straight swap but with very slightly higher armor, with it being the New Game Plus. Doesn't make it a big difference, but then if you've unlocked the rune right to level 3, then you can make the Greater Glyphs of Mending and get the diagrams, build those from scratch and put them into your new Undvik trousers with the slots you've added. So you could just continue with the game, go to Kertrold and all of that stuff, but if you want to try something a little bit different, you could go to Toussaint, which is what we're going to do here. Now if you watch my Getting to Toussaint early video, which is how you do it in the regular game, making it as easy as possible, you can skip this fight by just choosing the option when Geralt says about the bandits. You can choose the option to just say there will always be bandits and it skips this fight, but that's not what I want to do. I'm level 83, so naturally I want to do a level 96 quest because I love doing stuff like that. Anyway, so you can see we're using the Uber build here, and this is actually just before the video is very slightly out of order because I was still using my Grandmaster Ursine gear here. So you can see that I actually take a decent amount of damage, so I'm having to actually use a bit of skill in combat, which is quite fun. And I'm using the Add Sweep version of the build, and you can see how quickly the Add Sweep builds your stamina and just how rapid the stamina boost, stamina regeneration gets in protracted fights, which is really fun. There's also no need for us to try and shoot Goliath in the face, which is what we would do normally. You can use the fact that one arrow to the visor will kill him when you're doing a normal deathmatch playthrough, so that you don't have to fight him because he'd be extremely difficult to fight. But here he's not difficult to fight at all. He may out-level us by 10 to 15 levels, but it's about 13 levels I think here. But as you can see, it doesn't matter, you just use the same tech and the normal features of the build, and even if you didn't decide to use the Add Sweep version of it, then you can very easily do the same with Rage Management and Superior Tony and all that kind of thing. So, pretty easy fight, and you get access to Toussaint. Now you can do the normal stuff that you do in Toussaint, like the Grandmaster Armour, and have access to the perfumery to just buy things like Rubedo and Albedo and all of the alchemy things like that. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to progress some more of the story missions. So you can see that was Death March, and this is the level 96 quest, Beast of Toussaint. So it's level 96 for me because I started Blood and Wine at level, started New Game Plus rather at level 61. But I'm actually going to try and progress the story a little bit further and complete the Beast of Toussaint mission. And the reason I'm going to do that is so that I can upgrade Corvo Bianco earlier and have access to a stash in Toussaint and a few other useful things like that, which I'll come on to in just a minute. But first, there are a few fights that you're going to have to do if you want to be this kind of crazy player and try and start Blood and Wine 15 levels early when everything's a red skull. Now, first things first, we've got the Bruxa. You see here I'm using the legendary Witcher gear. So this is the legendary Ursine chest. Still got the exact same Manticore boots. So that's the original Manticore boots, because the ones in New Game Plus, the legendary version, aren't going to be available until a much higher level. But you can see that the same technology that allows us to have the high resistances with the Ursine gear, protective coating on the correct oil, and the Arakas decoction is allowing us to take tons of hits. And even though this is a Red Skull higher, well not higher, but it's a Red Skull Bruxa enemy vampire, it's still not able to break when with a hit, and it's quite a fun fight, and it actually lasts more than 5 seconds, which is good fun. That's what she said. Anyway, so you got to fight this Bruxa, and it's quite a fun little fight here. I'm using the same thing. You could use Add Sweep if you're using the Ancient Leshen version of the Ancient Leshen decoction version of the build, which I'm really enjoying on this playthrough, as I mentioned in the last episode. But even without it, it's no problem. Now, whatever potions use you've got, you should use Black Blood, as I obviously forgotten to do there, so that if the Bruxa does land that jumping attack on you, black blood will hurt it instead of giving it that boost. So that's an interesting little thing to remember. But you can see it doesn't make a massive difference here, and I'm able to beat her pretty soundly without any problems at all. So when you progress the Beast of Toussaint quest, you go and see the Duchess, and again, if you watch the original walkthrough, you'll have seen this trick of throwing a salmon bomb or using regular ARD against the wall to confuse the Shaelmaar that you have to fight in this quest. And you can do that when you're fighting any Shaelmaars. I actually played the game through once or twice before I even realised that was the thing, but you can read it in the bestiary entry, so it's a very interesting tactic to be able to use. Now this Shaelmaar, if you were fighting it normally, would take a long time to fight. And if you're playing it when it's a similar level to you and you're doing normal damage instead of it being a red skull enemy and it taking a lot less, you can kill it in pretty much one round of whirl. But it being a red skull enemy at the minute, that is not the case, so you have to be a little bit careful and make sure that you are tempting it to hit the wall so you can do decent damage. Now when it was doing its spinny attack after the first time I knocked it over, that hurls rocks at you and things and does a lot of damage, so you want to keep Quen up. But in between times I was using ARD Sweep purely to boost my stamina regeneration for the rest of the fight using the Ancient Lesson Decoction, so that I could keep Quen up a little bit earlier. So that's a lot of fun as well. So the last fight that you have to do if you want to complete the Beast of Beauclair, it goes straight on to the Blood Run mission. And this is where you are chasing the Beast of Beauclair. And you can see here that we're just fighting and using the exact same tactics. So again, even if you don't want to use the ARD Sweep version of the thing where you have the build where you have 4 decoctions and the 4th one being the Ancient Lesson Decoction, you could very easily just stick to Rage Management or whichever version of the build that you prefer, and it's the exact same thing. You'll be able to beat him pretty easily. So after we complete this, you get the deed to Corvo Bianco, and this is one of the main reasons that I've come to Blood and Wine early. Now there are a couple other things that are a lot of value in coming to Blood and Wine, coming to Toussaint earlier than you would normally, as you've surely noticed by now, being this far into New Game Plus if you're following the walkthrough. The vendors don't tend to have enough money to buy anything from you. Now if you've bought all of the diagrams and the glyph diagrams and things like that from the Master Rune, right, if you've unlocked him and got level 3, he'll have like 20 grand or so he'll be able to buy some swords for you, even though he doesn't give very good prices. It's still a good way of getting that money back. But for all the swords that you get from fighting bandits, if you're clearing any of the undiscovered locations, even in Velin, you'll get a lot of high level swords and you're not able to sell them to anybody. And the best way to get that money is to bring the swords to Toussaint, where there are lots of different armours who you can sell it to. And you saw there I was just upgrading Corvo Bianco as well, so you can put your 14 grand into that, and that unlocks a few useful things as well, like being able to convert mutagens. So you can convert mutagens into different colours because you've got Corvo Bianco fully upgraded a lot earlier, so that's really good as well. But you can see here the Master Armours in Toussaint are good for doing your dismantling with. And it doesn't matter that they cost more to do your dismantling with, because you'll actually be able to sell swords to them. You can see there he's got about 11k, and you don't want to sell things to the Grandmaster Armourer unless you can help it, because I've realised that that slows down his inventory for when you're doing the Grandmaster crafting. So sell it to the Master Armourers. The armour and blacksmith in the tourney grounds have a lot of money, so you can sell a lot of things to them. And also the ones in I think it's Francolat, one of the towns in the southeast of Toussaint. There are a couple of armourers and blacksmiths there. So I hope you find those tips useful. Another thing that you can do is also get the couple of places of power, get a few extra ability points, and then we'll be continuing with Skellige, so please like and subscribe for more videos. Thank you for watching.